Over the last 75 years, over 10,000 chemicals have been introduced to our food supply. Yet the EU only allows 300 food additives. But at Thrive Market, we bring our members the highest quality brands and restrict more than 1,000 ingredients found at conventional grocery stores, making the switches easy with our Healthy Swaps scanner, which finds better versions of all your favorite pantry, snacking, and home essentials without the added junk, dyes, and fillers. Plus, it's all delivered straight to your door. So if you're looking to shop at a grocery store that actually cares about your health, go to thrivemarket.com/podcast and you'll get 30% off your first order and a free gift.
And hello, everyone. It's your girl, Gabrielle. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hot Topics. This is a web series where we like to talk that real talk about things that are steamy, right? We like to talk about life experiences. We like to share stories. We like to educate you, right? So we tend to focus on certain topics. We tend to focus on education, employment, mental health, physical health. We've done episodes on divorce. We've done episodes on financial security. We just did an episode about cuddle parties, right? So, yes, we do have a certain scope that we like to stay in, but within that scope, we like to get all hot and bothered. And we also like to uh, talk that real talk. We like to talk about realities. We try not to sugarcoat things here. So, with that said, this is not the place for celebrity gossip. This is an educational area. And I am very much looking forward to the topic today. And the topic today, I'm just going to get right into it, is Life as a Teacher Part 2. So obviously there's a part 1, right? So if you check out our video library, wherever you are watching this right now, whether that's Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, maybe Instagram, wherever you are watching this right now, there is a video library of all of our past episodes. Check it out and check out part 1. But your eyes do not deceive you. We are repeating topics because we believe that there's more than one way to see a single topic. And we definitely want you to look at multiple perspectives of the same thing. So we are bringing this topic back, life as a teacher. And I have a guest with me who is going to sit on the hot seat and take the burn. Her name is Adva Hanan, and I definitely want to tell you about her. So let's get right to it. Who is Adva Hanan? Let me tell you who she is. So Adva is an early childhood educator with over 7 years of experience teaching 2 and 3-year-olds both inside the classroom and as a camp director. She has a bachelor's degree in psychology and early childhood education and a master's degree in education. She has specializations in special education and educational leadership. Adva also runs her own small business where she helps teachers regain their confidence in their teaching abilities by providing professional development programs. Fabulous. So let's get started. I'm going to bring Adva to the stage. Hello, Adva. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I am well. I'm well. So I definitely want to hear your life story and your experiences. So I'm just gonna get right to it. So I want to hear, what it's like being a teacher, even nowadays, when teaching such young kids. So I definitely want to know, what it's like being a teacher, and I want the audience to know as well. So now I'm gonna pass over the baton, and I'm gonna have you tell your story.
Sure. So I have always known that I wanted to be a teacher. I've known since I was about 14. I have worked in camps since around that time and always wanted to work with the younger kids. So I loved working with the 2 and 3 year olds. I always loved early childhood, and that kind of became a passion of mine. And at 21, right before I started teaching full time, I was in camp as a counselor and had a child in my class um, who it was his first time like really being away from mom. He was 2. Um, and at the end of the summer, I got like the best compliment you could possibly get as a person who is going into the world of education. And his mom was an educator as well. And she said to me, she goes, "Don't give this up. You are so, so talented at what you do. You have made this summer incredible for my kid." And that has always stuck with me. So when I went into my first year of teaching, as much as I didn't know a lot, I had come in with only a psychology degree at the time. I knew that it was a place for me. Like I knew that I wanted to do this. I knew that I wanted to work with the little kids. Um, and so my first year of teaching, I came in as a second language teacher. And I did that for about 3 years. I had a variety of different kids, different needs, and I learned a lot. And to be honest, that first year, I struggled with my confidence inside the classroom. As I mentioned before, didn't have a degree in education yet, and I didn't know the first thing about what it was to run a real classroom. I knew what camp was like, but camp is very different than school, and it's very different expectations as well. So my first year, I actually didn't teach a lesson until the end of the school year, until April, because I really, really lacked confidence. So 3 years in, I didn't want to do the second language teaching. I wanted more than just being kind of a co-teacher. And so I decided that I was going to go for an administrative role within a school. Now, people looked at me like I was crazy because that's unheard of to have an administrative role after 3 years of being a teacher. And I listened, but that didn't necessarily um, make a make me quote happy. So I ended up in a public school as a paraprofessional working with a child who was on the autism spectrum, um, one-on-one, and that kind of reaffirmed my love for the classroom, my love for teaching. And at the end of that school year, I got an offer to teach as the lead teacher 2 and 3 year olds. And that was 3 years of teaching inside the classroom. And I honestly learned a ton. I also was going through my master's at the time. So I was kind of juggling both. But in those 3 years as a lead teacher, I worked with another teacher who um, was a little bit out of sorts. She didn't really know what she was doing. She had just moved up from an assistant position, and she was the lead teacher for the 3 and 4 year olds. Now, the problem was she didn't have the quote support that she needed and the guidance that she needed. And what ended up happening is that after that year, she was let go. And that kind of that really made a big impact on me. I was in the middle of learning about leadership within a school and how important it is to support teachers so that they don't fail. And that's kind of where my small business grew out of. I saw a teacher who needed help and needed desperate support and never got it. And that seems to be a common thing in the early childhood world. I can't speak to elementary or middle or even high school, but I can speak to early childhood because I was in that position my first year, and I got really lucky that I was able to maintain my job anyway because I had people who were vouching for me. But this teacher didn't have anyone vouching for her, and she left the job feeling like she had failed, feeling like if she had gotten more support, if she had gotten more guidance in terms of how to be the lead and how to lead a classroom and how to gain that confidence, she might have been able to save her job and she might have been able to come back the following year. So that's kind of my story. And that's where I developed my business idea, where I provide that professional development for teachers so that they can step into their classroom with confidence and really lead their classroom in a way that feels good to them.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. So, a couple times I noticed that you mentioned the word confidence. You mentioned the lack of confidence that some teachers experience. Where do you think that that lack of confidence comes from?
I think that lack of confidence can come from just inexperience. Um, that's one aspect of it. So, a lot of times teachers are kind of thrown into a classroom in their first year and expected to do literally everything and everything really well. And if they're thrown into a classroom without the support and the guidance, then the things that might not go well will not end up being changed or fixed because they don't know how to make it better. So, lack of confidence can come from that inexperience, but also lack of confidence can come from being a classroom teacher and feeling overwhelmed and stressed out because there's chaos in the classroom. You can't get above all of the paperwork that's happening that you have, and your principal is in your ear telling you that your kids aren't up to mark. So a lot of lack of confidence can come from the inexperience, but it can also come from just feeling chaotic in the classroom because you don't know how to lessen that chaos and really impact on a bigger scale inside the classroom. And many times it comes from the classroom management aspect. If a teacher doesn't necessarily have the classroom management skills, things can feel way bigger and way more chaotic, and therefore have an effect on a person's confidence. Same thing goes for if they're teaching and they see that their class is bored every single day and they don't know how to engage them and there's no one guiding them. Again, that can lead to a lack of confidence and can lead to them saying, you know what, maybe this isn't for me, or maybe I'm not a good teacher, or maybe my teaching technique isn't good enough. Maybe I'm just the bad teacher and my kids are just going to be chaotic because that's how it's going to be. And that lack of confidence can lead to giving up, and it can lead to walking away from the classroom. And so many teachers have walked away from the classroom. There's a huge teacher shortage right now with COVID taking over our classrooms. It's been a real big challenge, and teachers are walking away for many reasons, but they're walking away because there is no support, and there isn't enough guidance for them to feel like they can step into their classroom with that confidence and know that they are making an impact every single
day. So, on that note, in regards to COVID, I think the teacher shortages are due to many things, but I think a lot of teachers don't want to are afraid to catch COVID from their students, from their staff, and it could be about the way that the school is run, as a
For sure.
and the availability of remote teaching, right? Um, there seems to be this pushback against remote teaching. Um, I guess depending on where you are, but to me, there seems to be this pushback against remote teaching. So I'm wondering, um, what's the best way for teachers to handle things that are out of their control, and how can they get the support that they're looking for when the systems in place are not really supporting them.
So COVID kind of turned our world upside down. Everybody's world upside down, but teachers also. There is a big pushback with um, digital learning, and the reason is because now when kids are back in the school systems, they're seeing a huge delay. They're seeing that kids are not at the same level that they were before COVID hit. Coming into first grade, they're not on the same level as they were 3 years ago when we didn't even know COVID was in existence, right? And so that's why there's a lot of pushback. Now, if you are in a school that isn't isn't prepared for COVID the way that you'd like to, I think the only thing that you can do is what are you in control of? So you're in control of how you protect yourself every single day. So whether that's now the mask mandate has been lifted, right? In many, many states. So if you aren't comfortable taking off a mask, don't do it. Keep your mask on. Um, and again, like outside of school, what are you doing to help you feel safe? So if you're in school and you're getting, let's say you are exposed and you are wearing a mask. So what are you doing at home to help navigate that? What are you doing in school to help navigate that? For me, it was every time a kid blew their nose, I washed my hands. Or every time I was in the bathroom with kids, I would wash my hands just because I knew that that was what was going to make me feel comfortable. I wouldn't feel comfortable even now with COVID taking off a mask when it comes to my students. My students are too young to get a vaccine. And so that's why for me, I would be wearing a mask all the time. Some people are double masking because it's so contagious that they need to know that they are as protected as possible. Not only that, if you see that the COVID regulations aren't your cup of tea, you can think about what you're going to do next year. So if you are in a classroom right now and the COVID regulations are not what you want, then look into other schools. Look what other schools are doing to establish COVID regulations. Now, everybody is coming down from the, having to wear a mask and a face shield, or having the kids have to wear a mask all the time. Things are kind of opening up and getting better, but the only thing that you can control is your actions. So if you don't feel comfortable, wear a mask. If you don't like those COVID regulations, look into other COVID regulations at other schools. See if any other school would be more of a fit for you as a teacher. So I guess those are kind of the two biggest things, because you can't control COVID. You can't control what your students are doing outside of school. The only thing you can control is how you respond to it. So if you're saying, I'm not comfortable and I'm not comfortable taking off my mask in my classroom, then don't take off your mask. Or I'm not comfortable only wearing one mask, I want a double mask because my kids are now unmasked, then double mask. If you don't like the COVID regulations, you can also say something if you're not comfortable. I'm not saying that's going to change, because most schools are going according to their governor. They're going according to what the state is telling you to do. So if you're not comfortable, look into other schools, look into what other schools are doing for their staff, for their students in terms of COVID, and see if maybe another school would be a better fit in that sense. And then digital learning, as I said before, there's a big discrepancy when it comes to digital learning. There are teachers that find online schools and do that full time. So there is that option, and you can work from home in that sense. And I think a lot of times that's like our dream scenario. But a lot of times also, like, if you don't want to teach online and you want to teach in person, you got to find a place that works for you, and you got to figure out how to manage what you're in control of, how you react to certain regulations that are happening, so whether it's COVID and how you respond to that, or it's I don't know, navigating the classroom and how you respond to certain behaviors. I feel like a lot of all of that, the way you respond is the way you'll end up presenting yourself. So if you're reacting rather than responding, that's how your day is going to go. If you know how you're going to respond to these things, then it might feel a little bit better. It might feel like you're more in control. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you. So now, how easy is it to find another teaching job? Because it all the news about the teacher shortages and people using substitute teachers, or there's not enough substitute teachers. So now I'm wondering, how is the job market now for teachers? Given what's going on with COVID, it seemed like anybody could be a teacher nowadays, or maybe the rules are lax now in terms of hiring. So I wonder if you could speak to that. How is the job market now for teachers?
So I think that right now there are a lot of teaching opportunities. 3 years ago, I would have told you that it was very different. There are a lot of teaching opportunities right now. Now, I don't know how lax people are in terms of their teachers, but I do know that, like, in terms of the public schools, you can't go in and teach without a license. And a lot of times they do intense interviews. Like, I've done those interviews before. They ask you questions that you need to have an answer to if you want to get that job. Now, in private schools, it's a little bit different, but again, you do need to have the qualifications. So it might be that the market has a lot of teaching opportunities, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that principals are lowering expectations in terms of their teachers. The biggest thing is now that there's a lack. There's not enough support staff. There's not enough substitutes. So teachers feel guilty taking a day off when they need it for their own mental health. And there's just not enough. There aren't enough teachers in the building to be able to necessarily have a classroom full of children where it's, quote, safe, or where it is according to ratio regulations in that state. But there are a lot of opportunities right now. There are opportunities for teachers. There are opportunities for administrators. There are opportunities everywhere. And if you are looking to make an impact in the education world, whether that's in the classroom or as an administrator, it's a great time to look, and it's a great time to make your mark and make the difference. Because right now, I feel like it's like super, super critical for teachers to remember how much of an impact they're making on a day-to-day basis, and for administrators to step up and help those teachers and support those teachers, and not only be so overwhelmed with what they're navigating as administrators, but also take a load off the teachers. Give them a break. Give them the knowledge and the tools so that they can walk into their classroom feeling good about where they are, what they're doing, what they're working on with their students, the impact that they're making inside the classroom, the difference that they can be making in the future for these kids.
Okay. So now my thing is, so with all the complaints I hear about teaching, that people, I mean, even you said it can be overwhelming. The being overwhelmed, and the the systems working against you, and the lack of support, being underpaid, and overworked, all these complaints about being a teacher. So now I'm wondering, you know, is it still worth it?
So, in terms of being overwhelmed and underpaid, I think that's always been a complaint. I don't think that's necessarily new because of COVID. I think it's just you hear more of it now. Um, Teachers have always been underpaid. There's always been that complaint. And I'm not saying that that's okay by any means. I'm saying that that's unfortunately the reality right now. And it's been the reality that teachers are underpaid. I can tell you that I was totally underpaid for the amount of work that I was putting into my classroom. But teachers don't go into teaching for the salaries. Teachers go into teaching to make that impact, to make that difference, to teach those students, to help make those students the leaders of the next generation, right? So yes, the teachers aren't being paid enough, and that is especially now with all of the COVID regulations and all of the things that they have to make up for what digital learning didn't do, right? Um, Overwhelm, unfortunately, also something that you hear about even prior to COVID times. Um, I've been overwhelmed in teaching a lot over 7 years. I taught during COVID, but I also taught before COVID. And overwhelm was a part of my life, unfortunately. And there are ways to navigate that overwhelm. So there are a lot of teachers who show up talking about how to navigate that overwhelm, talking about how you can make your day more sustainable for you to just work from 7:30, 8 o'clock until 4 o'clock rather than working after hours or on weekends. There are ways to navigate it, and unfortunately in teaching it can make a teacher feel guilty if they're not working overtime, if they're not working on weekends, if they're not doing everything they possibly can inside their classroom. And I think what teachers need to remember is that, first of all, you didn't come into teaching for the money. And second of all, there are avenues you can take to navigate the overwhelm and the stress, just like you can navigate overwhelm and stress in any situation. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying it's always, that quick of a transition. But for me, I was a teacher in the classroom for 7 years. I didn't take work home very often. And I don't know how many times I went home feeling guilty that I wasn't doing work. But at the end of the day, you need to separate, you need to have those boundaries. And that's part of it as a teacher, having those boundaries, having the work at work and home be home. Now, I'm not saying it's always possible to stay inside your contracted hours, but for the most part, that's what it should be. That's what I encourage. And if you really plan out your week and how you're going to get the things that you need to get done during prep time, in the mornings before your kids come in, um, even in the afternoon when your kids are doing independent work, or in early childhood, if it's a free play time, what are you going to do so that you can manage that overwhelm, manage that stress level, and make sure that you're getting your stuff done in the classroom and not necessarily late nights outside of the classroom? Because when you're stressed and overwhelmed as a teacher, you're not going to be able to be present with your family, with your kids, with your spouse, with your friends. So I think it's really important to learn those time management skills and learn how to make the best out of your day in the classroom, so that that overwhelm and stress doesn't get to the point where you're overtired, overworked, feeling like you're not doing anything right, and you're doubting yourself, you're doubting your ability to teach, you're doubting your choice in going and pursuing teaching. There's just like so much that comes out of um, that stress and overwhelm, so much like resentment and um, questioning yourself. And I've been there. I can speak to that because last year I also felt really overwhelmed, really stressed. And the only thing that changed was that I navigated my time in a way that was effective for me, to make sure that when I was in school, I was using those hours to prep, to plan, to do whatever I needed to do inside the classroom, so that when I got home, I could relax, I could work on my business, I could watch TV, or I could hang out with friends after work, whatever that might look like.
And how does one do that? I feel like it's easy to say, but it's not easy to do, you know? So
Yeah.
how does that work? How does one manage their time? How do you balance home life and work life? How do you leave the job at the job and just take care of yourself at home?
I think number one, the never ending to do lists for teachers can be really stressful and very overwhelming, and can feel like you have to do it that day or it's never going to get done. And I I've learned that the work will always be there the next day. So take take 3 big projects that you want to work on that day, that week, whatever it is, and use the time that you have to be able to get those things done. So, teachers usually have prep time during the day. And so, when your kids are in specials, when your kids are doing independent work, when your kids are in free play or whatever it is, or at recess, well, that's your lunchtime. So I would navigate that a little differently. But when your kids are occupied and you can take a minute to figure out what you want to get done during that time, it can free up your afternoon to feel more accomplished. But I also think that a lot of times to-do lists, when you have 20 things on your to-do lists in one day, it is really freaking overwhelming. I've been overwhelmed by my to-do lists when they have more than 3 things on the list, because I can't get that stuff done in one day. It's not possible. So the only thing I can say is, what do you want to get done in that week? And then organize your day so that you know what you're getting done during the time that you have. If you don't have a lot of time during the school day, I'm not saying don't stay late. I'm saying, okay, if you don't have time during the school day and you need an extra half hour, stay an extra half hour, but don't stay 3 hours. There are teachers who literally will sit in their classrooms from 4 o'clock all the way up until 7 p.m. And that doesn't give them the chance to have a life. It doesn't give them the chance to relax and recoup after a day of being inside the classroom, dealing with students, dealing with whatever needs needed to be met. So what I did last year when I was stressed out is I stayed for an extra half hour, but I limited my time. I didn't stay for 2 hours. I didn't stay for 3 hours. I stayed for a half hour after work. And it lasted like 3 weeks where I stayed a half hour late twice a week. And that helped me feel a little bit better about the workload. And I think that that's a big part of it is I am not an expert at time management, but I did learn how to manage my day so that I could come home and say, okay, I'm done. I'm not working this afternoon. I need to grocery shop. I need to do whatever I need to do, clean the house, whatever it is, and actually get stuff done outside of the classroom. And it's hard to turn off the teacher brain. It is, but I'm telling you, it is so worth it at the end of the day because it avoids burnout. It avoids the feeling of, I can't do this anymore. I need to walk away from this profession. It's too much for me. So I think that taking your to-do list and saying, okay, these are the 3 things I'm going to get done on Monday. These are the 3 things I'm going to get done on Tuesday. And really being able to check those things off every day is super important for you to be able to get out of the classroom and say, okay, now my focus is on my friends. Now my focus is on me. Now my focus is on my spouse or my kids, right? And not only that, taking the time every single day to put in a little self-care, whatever that self-care looks like. Self-care every single day will make a big, big difference for you in the classroom because you know that you've shown up for yourself, and therefore you can show up for your students in a way that feels good to you. Because when you're burnt out, you don't show up for yourself and you don't show up for your students. So the first order of business is, number 1, to manage your time, but number 2, to also make sure that self-care is a part of your routine. It doesn't have to be 3 hours worth of self-care. It can be 15-minute walk outside. It can be a 20-minute workout. It can be sitting in front of the TV and eating a snack by yourself for 10 minutes. Like, it really doesn't matter what that self-care is, as long as you're taking that time for yourself. Because again, if you stay too long and you have a million things that you feel like you haven't gotten done and you're not managing your time in a way that makes sense for you, all of that leads to burnout. All of that leads to walking away. Not only that, taking care of your mental health. And that means if you need a day off, take a damn day. Take it. I used to feel really, really guilty taking a day off. And I used to get to the point where I lost it. Like, I couldn't do it anymore. And I felt guilty taking a day off, and I avoided texting my boss because I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want her to stress out that she didn't have a sub. But at the end of the day, you need to do what's best for you. So if that means taking a day off in the middle of a week because you just can't do it anymore and you need to just recoup, do it. I think that between those 3 things, I think those are things that can help you navigate the boundaries of teaching and life. Taking a day off, really focusing on self-care, and figuring out how to manage your day and your workload every single week, so that when you have time, when you have 20 minutes, you can dive into lesson planning. When you have 20 minutes, you can dive into any prep work that you might need to do. So I know that some teachers on Fridays like to make copies, right? They like to make copies. They like to make sure that everything is set for Monday. If you can do that on a Friday, you have a whole weekend to yourself. You have a whole weekend to go out with your friends, to go out with your family, to go on a date night, to whatever it might be, to take your kids somewhere. Your teacher brain can be shut off for the weekend. So those are kind of my 3 biggest tips in terms of managing time, managing burnout, etc.
Awesome. All right, so we are starting to wind down. Do you have any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share, or any final advice that you would like to impart to our viewers?
I think that As teachers, we need to give ourselves the space to navigate whatever feelings we're feeling in the moment. And a lot of times we don't like to ask for help, but help is what will get us to feeling better, to feeling more on top of everything, to feeling like you can take on a classroom full of students. So asking for help is number one. And I think number two is investing in yourself. And I'm not talking about necessarily paying money, but invest in your self care. So if you know that you like to work out and there's a YouTube video that you've been wanting to do for, I don't know, a month and you haven't done it, then invest in that. Make sure that you are taking the time to actually do that workout video. Make sure that you are scheduling that time for you. And I think the last thing is um, find a mentor, find someone who can help you navigate what you're feeling. Find someone who's been in your shoes and who's in teaching, also understands where you're coming from, but also can help you navigate any feelings that may come up throughout the year.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Adva, for that. So let me put up your banner. So you guys, sorry, wait, I want that to scroll. Okay. There we go. All right, you guys. So you can find Adva on social media. She is on Instagram and LinkedIn. So definitely pass by her social media accounts and follow her. Don't just pass by, but follow her. Follow, subscribe, reach out. So definitely stay in touch with her. And if you have any questions for her, feel free to reach out. And if you're looking for consultation, definitely reach out to her as well. And I also provided her email address, which is scrolling below. So Adva, can you tell us more about what you do in your business?
Sure. So I provide professional development opportunities for teachers. So any learning opportunities that teachers might want, need, look into. There are a lot of places where you can find courses and workshops and webinars. So I do provide that, but I really focus on leading the classroom with confidence. So I work on the mindset that goes along with it. I work on classroom management. I work on a few different topics that really kind of come together to help a teacher step into their classroom confidently and kind of transform the way they show up for themselves and for their students.
Also, you provide one-on-one consultations.
I do, yes. Yeah, so I have a course that is going to be launching at the end of this month. It's basically a step-by-step process to how I navigated my lack of confidence, and I want to teach that to you. So we're going to go through 3 steps that you can take to help you show up for yourself, for your students, and really step into that confident leader and teacher. And so that course is going to come out at the end of March. But before that, I'll have a webinar totally free for anybody who is interested in possibly hopping in.
And where can people learn about this course, or where can they sign up, or
so you can go to my Instagram account. There's a lot of information on my Instagram account. You can also always email me and I can put you on a wait list so that you get that first email when it opens. You know exactly when it's coming and any details that you want to know. And you'll get that first email when it does open up so that you can sign up either right away or you can ask any questions that you might have. And I also posted a little bit about it on LinkedIn, but my main platform would be Instagram. If you want to hear more, you can also just message me on Instagram if this is something that interests you, I can talk through it and see if you'd be a good fit for it.
All right, guys, you heard it. You heard it yourself. So reach out to her on Instagram, send her an email. If you want to take part in the course, you want to participate, reach out to her so she could put you on the waiting list. So as soon as you hear that it's starting, you will automatically be good to go. So definitely reach out to her and get on that wait list. All right, Adva, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate your words of wisdom and sharing your experience with our viewers.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to place you backstage now. And you guys, it is just you and me. So let me put up my banner. Where's my banner? There's my banner. All right. And we have reached the conclusion of our episode. Thank you so much for joining us today. So, whatever social media platform you are watching this episode, I encourage you to check out the video library for more videos and clips. And don't forget to follow us. So, follow, subscribe, like, whatever the button is. Sorry. Sorry, 1 second. Quick pause. Uh, Woo! Sorry about that. The intro, the things about being live. All right. Yes. So, um, what was I saying? Yeah. So wherever you are watching this, definitely follow us, like us, subscribe, whatever the button is. Press that button. And while you're at it, let us know what you thought about this episode by leaving a comment in the comment section below or in the comment thread. We definitely would like to know your feedback about this episode. And as a reminder, this is a production of A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So if you would like to learn more about our company, our services, our workshops, the things that we have to offer, or maybe you're interested in getting a tutor for yourself or your child, please reach out to us. Our information is scrolling below on the screen, but I will say our website, it is www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com. And I also encourage you to sign up for our email list and or our texting list. Those links are also scrolling below as well. You can hear about our promotions, our discounts, our special events. So you'll hear announcements from us. So definitely sign up for the email list and or our texting list. Wait, to turn off my banner. Fabulous. All right. And I'm going to play this one message before I close.
Hey there, have you heard of us? We're a small team of tutors here at A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. We believe that education and information should be accessible to everyone, regardless of income, race, or creed. We're dedicated to making this happen, but we need your help. Please consider making a donation to our company. No amount is too small. Your donation will allow us tutors to remain employed, offer free and low-cost services, put on productions like this web series, and reach out to families nationwide. With your help, we can tackle the academic challenges of our students and the emotional, mental, and behavioral changes that result from these challenges. As a bonus, we can improve our communities in the process. Support us today. Note: we're a for-profit company. We're not a charity. Your donation may not be tax deductible. Please consult a tax professional.
And that is it for our episode. Thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to seeing you at the next episode. Thank you for coming. And now, signing off.